You like jazz? So this is the second episode of our very brief exploration into instrumental jazz metal. And today, first I'm lighting a candle to set the mood. Today we are going through the more prog rock type of jazz. These are the bands that have influenced or are working with bands like Pliny, Intervals, and many of the most famous instrumental prog acts that are around right now. So 10, possibly 11 albums are in line for today. There's a little bit of heaviness scattered here and there, but it's mostly going to be more jazzy than jazz metal. But you know, hold on, trust me. Plenty of these bands get really heavy, and it always happens when you least expect it. And there are going to be a couple in this episode that you haven't heard before. Yes, you specifically. A couple that you've definitely heard of before, and that's okay. We're going to start at the most popular, and we're going to move down like we usually do. Today, I'm drinking Four Loko Camo. When they say Americans don't have culture, I'm still not sure what they're talking about. So I'm going to let you guys know, I think this is a new one, I'm going to let you guys know what camo tastes like. Battery acid, I think, is what they're going for here. I think that might have something to do with camo. I'm not sure though. So these used to be illegal because they used to have caffeine in them. As you see that by the percentage here. We're really going crazy today on a Monday afternoon. Please send help. All right, let's get started with one of the obvious ones. So this is The Further Side by Nova Collective. So featuring Dan Briggs on bass, who you are going to see multiple times on this list. This project only has one album, but it is a great one, and I think it's a perfect start to this section. To me, this sounds exactly like what you would have expected old school prog to eventually kind of carry into, mostly because it has those same sensibilities, but it has a more modern and fresh feel to it, in my opinion. And then the next one is Separate Realities by Trioscapes. This is Dan Briggs' project number 2. I gotta represent North Carolina, it's what I do. So this is a trio with a drummer, a bassist, and a saxophone player. And it is definitely more just pure jazz than most of the other ones in this episode. But even though it doesn't feature a guitar, these songs really feel heavy. I don't think heaviness has to include a guitar, obviously. There's plenty of classical music out there that is super heavy. They were doing metal way before we were. So these guys prove that heaviness just isn't all about the instruments. It's also about the songwriting and the atmosphere that you can create. Next is Magic Machine by an Endless Sporadic. So this was a Bandcamp find for me. In 2004 they came out. They've gained most of their popularity through things like Guitar Hero and Tony Hawk, so like video games. Mostly known for their technicality. They're actually a duo, but they collaborate often with Jordan Rudess and Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum. Great name, by the way, for a band. They don't often shy away from experimenting with different instruments, and a lot of their songs feature just like crazy synthesizers and breakneck tempos. Next up, A Place to Breathe by Syncatto. This one is crazy good. It's not hard to argue that it's jazzy, but there's a lot more going on than that. This is a project by Charlie Robbins. Somebody in the comments of one of their videos referred to them as flamenco gent, and I think that's kind of a cool description. You can definitely hear flavors of polyphia in his music, and he had a lot of guests on this album specifically. So you're going to be hearing a lot of musicians from bands like Unprocessed, Loam, and tons of other independent artists. Next up, Everything That Is You by Thrailkill. So this one's a little more relaxed at times than some of the previous choices on here, and there are some songs that have some vocals, so technically it's cheating, but I'm putting it in here because my house, my rules. There's definitely some math rock that you can hear in the guitar work. You get all that crazy tapping with the harmonies and stuff like that, and then they just have like flute solos that'll come out of nowhere. There's a lot going on. It's really cool. Next is Multiple Personalities by Coevality. Talk about weird stuff. Just check out this album cover. These guys aren't afraid to go a little more atmospheric with their stuff. So you have these really tight bass lines playing over these snappy drums, and then you have these soaring, reverberating guitar leads playing over it, and it's just a really brilliant contrast. Next is Do de Cadro by Glass Mind. So here is a Mexican band for my 3 Mexican subscribers out there. I think my most surprising demographics are Brazil and Chile, but I guess it's not really surprising because prog is honestly really big, and metal in general really big in Brazil. But yeah, I thought that was really cool that I'm making videos that people are watching from all over the world. Anyways, Glass Mind is a 4-piece project, 2 of which are brothers, and they are criminally underrated. They have a sort of like Scale the Summit songwriting sensibilities, but they do so much creative stuff. I don't even remember how I found them, but I'm glad I did. Next is Endless Eye by Umi. I'm going to be brutally honest, when I first put this album on, the intro track had me thinking that it was just going to be this generic instrumental album, but I was so glad to be proven wrong when that second track came in. This guy only has 200 subscribers on his YouTube channel, so just go make him famous. I mean, I know I barely have more than that, but just that's my only goal, is to get big enough that I could make other people famous. That would be really cool. Next is The Courage to Be by Lux Terminus. Here's another one that isn't afraid to get a little bit cheesy with the synthesizers, and we're here for it. The keyboard works crazy good. This is actually a concept album about 2 lovers who are separated due to circumstances beyond their control, and they describe it as a message of hope, which I think is awesome considering a lot of the metal we tend to listen to can be a little bit dreary and dark, so this is a nice change. And then number 10, the quote-unquote last one, wink wink, Atopia by Joel Lindfors. This album almost has some post-rock moments in it. As you guys know, I love that. It has the dynamics of like, really loud and soft, and sometimes it has more symphonic prog elements. So honestly, I would have no idea how to categorize it, but I think it falls into this episode very nicely. I'm getting something of a liquid tension experiment, terminal velocity type thing with the guitar solos, and that's a huge compliment for me. He actually plays every instrument that you hear, so the drums, the bass, the keyboards, everything is played by Joel, which makes it even more impressive. The song I'm actually showing you features C2I, which is really sick. He's playing a solo in this one. If you guys know him, obviously one of the goats of like instrumental prog music from the last like 10 years. So yeah, pretty sick. And then the actual last one, number 11, is Murmurations by Eyeless Owl. This album has a lot of avant-garde elements, a lot of acoustic guitar, and he has a lot of guest artists on here playing different instruments like the marimbas, the violins, flutes, bassoons, saxophones, everything. It's just a really, really fun listen if you're into very textural, natural sounding prog. And that is it for this episode. Yeah, these are going fast. I kind of talked really fast that time, but we have more to go. There is a third episode. Obviously, I'm not putting every band that exists that plays instrumental jazz metal in these episodes, but I'm trying to include just a general overview of like taking each flavor and kind of pulling them together and being like, here's what it can be, and now go off on your own. A lot of people are saying, I really like your guides. I want more of those. And it's like, these are my guides, you know? This is a much more palatable, I think, method of doing it is like giving you 30 bands at a time. Each episode has 10 bands. I like the format. They're not getting as much views, but you know, I'm really not in it for that. So let me know what you think if you guys have more suggestions about that, and I will see you guys next time.